Something, something dark side. Something, something complete.
Good morning, welcome back to the West Coast Davengers.
I'm a bald little baby.
I'm bringing you an episode today, something a little bit non-traditional for me. As you can see, I have a comic book right here. Ooh, a comic book. I brought this back from the UK. Now, you're going to hear about what's so special about it in just a moment. But before we get to that, every Wednesday, West Coast Wednesday, my comic claim sale. Everywhere podcasts are available, you can find It Came from the Newsstand, my podcast with my brother in crime, Manu, the 9.9 Newsstand. And you can find that, like I said, everywhere podcasts are available. Or just a little quick intro onto what this is. I brought this back from the United Kingdom, Britain, London, to be specific. And I did not buy this based on what was inside. I thought the cover was great. You know, you got your TV Spider-Man. But when I looked inside, I was super surprised to find the contents of this issue of Super Spider-Man TV comic, issue 450. You're going to see this from the top-down angle. This is kind of like a little experiment, so I'm sorry that there are some portions of this that cut off some of the panels, but just bear with me. I will get better at this kind of video, and if it doesn't do well, I'm still going to do these videos, so you can't stop me. Take it away, Dave. All right, Dave Angelino, so check this out. When I was in the UK, I picked up a copy of this because I was buying a lot of those Spider-Man oversized UK comics. And I obviously just looked at the cover of this and I needed to own it. You get the TV Spider-Man on there on the rooftop with his pose. It's the 450th issue of Super Spider-Man TV, but they added TV comic to it. So that must have been around the era that the TV show was on. 1981 this is from. I was barely 2 years old. There was no free gift in it, but I wasn't buying it for that. And I sure wasn't buying it to become a Marvel artist. But the puzzles prizes in 8 pages of color, that was pretty cool. What I love about this is the surprise I got when I got home and I started looking at all the stuff I bought. I was buying a lot of this on cover, like I said. And what I discovered is that this issue is a reprint of Amazing Fantasy 15, but not by Steve Ditko and Stan Lee. This is a retelling of it by Roger Stern, Greg LaRocque, Bob Wyacek, I guess that's Glennis Ween, and I'm not sure who Simic is. It's not Artie. Johnny? What I thought would be fun, too, is if I pulled out a reprint of the original AF-15, and we see kind of like a side-by-side comparison of what was in the original here and what was not, and what was added. So this cool opening color splash is really nice. It shows Peter as a student and maybe a student teacher and then the photographer. And you got this great kind of Ditko-esque looking Spider-Man coming at you. Just a little introduction of what we're about to see. And so we open up in a different scene than this. We open up with Peter at home with Uncle Ben and I almost said Aunt Beru, Uncle Ben, Aunt May, and Peter. Now this Peter kind of looks like the Ditko-esque Peter, but it's really funny because you get this, but then here it kind of conveys right here. I assume that's Flash Thompson, with Flash being a jerk, and or they just call him his fellow students. But to me, that's Flash, and then maybe that's early Gwen Stacy, even though Gwen Stacy doesn't appear anywhere in the first 10, 15. So we get to that second page, and the vibe is the same. Peter's just feeling dejected because he's a loser. So we get some of the panels from the first page of this on here. It's a little just kind of puzzled together. This one feels like an image in the 80s. That is a straight early copper image of Spider-Man, or Peter, I should say. But I do love the meme fist right there. Oh, someday I'll show them. Sorry that they laughed at me, which is not the vibe of Spider-Man. Spider-Man's not about revenge past his very, very early days. Once again, you get some of the panels from the second page of AF-15 on the first page of this, but I do enjoy seeing some of the black and white stuff. Now, what I really like, I love the magnified panel of the spider being irradiated. Whereas in AF-15, As you can see here, it's not a close-up shot. And I do love, the technology kind of change here from this. So you get Peter getting bit by the spider. This is a much better panel. This is also 20 years later, so I don't think anybody had a clue that this was going to be such an important thing as much as we do now. But they're both cool. I'll go for the non-Ditko version of that. But the same thing, he gets bit by the spider, and this elaborates a little bit more in this version. He gets into a little fight on the street, and he punches the shit out of this one dude. The Camaro kind of almost hits him, and he jumps on the wall. This is like some old caddy, and they both convey the same thing, that Peter can stick to the walls. That was one egghead who won't daydream anymore when he crosses the street. And then, let's see if this is fearing. Yeah, so they change it. They change it that he's kind of running away from those dudes. And he leaps up onto the wall, and you can see Peter climbing up the wall, discovering his powers. And let's see him discovering his powers in the original. I'm assuming this is recolored. Yeah, it's 2006, so it's definitely digitally recolored. You get kind of the same vibe. Kid sees this panel's almost the same. The verbiage is different. They basically updated it. But what I do love is these two panels this is just a wide shot. This is a closer up shot. And then you get the same thing with these two panels. Just fantastic retelling. That's what this is. Oh, okay, so this kind of elaborates a little bit more here on what's going on here. Aunt May asks him to take some clothing that Charity is collecting at the armory, and so he goes to the armory, and that's when he finds out about the wrestling. Whereas this, it's just kind of like, okay, I've got these powers, and then a few minutes later, he's just like, oh, well, there's some wrestling in the armory. But like I said, almost 20 years difference in these two versions of the story, so everything changes. Storytelling changes every year. Somebody comes up with a new way of telling a story. The shortened version is the AF-15. The longer version here is this version, and you get him figuring out that he can do all this stuff and taking Crusher Hogan to school. Now remember, Crusher Hogan is no relation to Hulk Hogan, but Randy the Macho Man Savage, ooh yeah, played him in the first Sam Raimi movie. So he takes Crusher Hogan to school, beats him, finds out he can make a whole bunch of money. Now, it's very interesting because when you look at it from the original, he's the promoter's telling him he can make a fortune, and he's like, thanks. Like, he's reluctant. He doesn't know what he's going to do. He's got all this cash now. And so later at Home Showmanship, he hasn't seen anything yet. Since I have the powers of a spider, I'll design myself a spider costume. Oh, hi, Aunt May. Where this version is pretty funny. He says it, but he looks kind of like a dick when he says it. We get a little more elaboration in the lab of Peter developing the fluid and figuring out all these things that it could do and how it works with the web shooters. And then he finds some bodysuits that dance class is throwing out, and he somehow silk screens the Spider-Man costume. Seems a little too, he seems a little too advanced for that. Oh, I'm gonna silk screen this bodysuit. But whatever, it's comic books. Here, you don't get any of that. You just get the very shortened version of that, and then he's Spider-Man. This is a great shot. That panel's fantastic. So then you get to the color insert, and it switches over, and this is part 2 of Amazing Fantasy 15. And it's funny because these are obviously the Ditko is the first, but then I think when you look at this, it's definitely an homage to that, but it looks more like Romita. The 2 decades in between the original and this retelling have really shaped this into a more Romita-esque Spider-Man. But I love both of these equally. You get this flipping action part, which is fantastic, which you don't see Ditko doing in this issue. But it's funny because I think Ditko did do that in other issues. So we start part 2 here. You go back and he's shooting a promo on TV, and that's what it looks like. Now, before we get to this page, check out the middle insert, and this is all about Spider-Man in the movies. So I guess it was the movie and not a TV show. Here's the cast of the Spider-Man television show, which I've never seen before, and I don't really know any of these actors. I mean, I kind of know the name Nicholas Hammond, but not familiar to me. But once again, I was just 2 years old when it came out. We get back to the story here, and it's obviously the famous scene, and it's, you know, it's the same panel. It's the robber running from the cop, and Peter just stands there. So it says, "Whew, rid of him at last. Hey, what's going on?" And then here it says, "Yeesh, I thought I'd never get rid of those guys. Uh-oh, now what?" So it's different verbiage, but it conveys the same thing. So long, Pops, to the cop, the security guard or whatever. So what I'm interested to see is this. I want to see what they do here. So, "What's with you, mister? All you had to do was trip him or hold him for a minute. Sorry, pal, that's your job. I'm through being pushed around by anyone. From now on, I just look out for number one, and that's me." Now, on the remake, "What's with you, mister? All you had to do was trip him or hold him for a minute." It's the same thing. "Sorry, pal, that's your job. I'm through being pushed around by anyone. From now on, I just look out for number one, and that means me." One of, if not the most iconic piece of the script is unchanged, because you can't change that. That goes from showing us that Peter is kind of over people, he's over being bullied, and he's fed up, and that means he can't see what's right or wrong. He's just being selfish for his own reasons. And so the next panel, it's changed a little bit. He says in this, "Why I oughta," and then he says, "I oughta run you in." "Why I oughta" feels like a TV trope, so it makes sense that it says that. But you know, they convey the same thing here. Yeah, save your breath, buddy, I have things to do. And then here it's, "Save your breath, buddy, I've got things to do." So not much changed. And then he goes home, and all is good, which is the same thing that conveys here. And so we get kind of the same vibe. He goes back to school. He's still pissed off at them. Then there's that montage of Spider-Man doing Spider-Man stuff and the newspaper and all that. And he comes home and he finds out that Uncle Ben is dead. Someone shot him. We pretty much get the same thing. You know, the running, the who shot him. Like, these are almost mirrored, you know, exactly the same way. And he puts on the Spider-Man costume. You get the same thing done a little bit differently. I like the classic one on this. So then we get the continuation about the Spider-Man TV show. Oh, and look at this. So this is the first time I'm fully looking through this. And I know my homie Andrew's going to love this. You got somebody drew in the Rhino. Daniel Riley. It was obviously somebody in the UK. Here's an ad for Forbidden Planet Bookshop, which Comic Tim was in the Forbidden Planet Bookshop. Comic Showcase. These places don't exist anymore from what I can tell. This is cool, but this is great. Somebody drew in this kid drew in the Rhino in pencil. It's not a bad Rhino. Not a bad Rhino. I don't think he would have gotten hired because he never sent it in, but I don't know if he would have gotten hired as a 10-year-old, but you never know. He did draw the action lines, so he does kind of understand how to convey movement. If you're watching this and you want your magazine back, let me know. Check this out. Spidey puzzle. What's missing? It doesn't look like he filled this out. So he didn't care about the puzzles. He just wanted to be a Marvel artist. Understandable. You get Ditko doing the wide shot on the swinging, but here you get a little bit of a wide and then a close-up. This is interesting. Like the way he looks, bulky Spider-Man kind of predates Spider-Man being a little more ripped. I like this. I like this a lot. And so there's the classic, you know, which has been homaged a bunch of times in Spider-Man, of him crawling and scaring the shit out of the burglar. But you don't get to that here. This is a little more of amping up to that. So let's flip this page, but keep this on the same page. And I like this shot with the spider web. We get the same thing. He looks a little bit more like a bug. And then this shot is virtually the same. They changed this. This is an interesting change. Instead of... I see why, but it's an interesting change. I got to get out of here. I got to hide. I must be seeing things. And I got to get away. Got to hide. I must be seeing things. So, almost the same shot. And then he grabs the gun. Or he webs up the gun. Which he does in the one shot here. So, took the two Ditko panels and combined it into one. And then this shot is virtually almost the same. And I don't know if this is original or if they added this in. I don't have an original AF-15 to look through. the end of the original AF-15 takes 1, 2, 3, 4 panels. What happens in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 panels? You know, it's just a little more elaboration on the regret and the emotions that Peter's going through after he webs up the guy who killed his uncle. And it says, if only I had stopped that burglar when I could have, but I didn't, and now Uncle Ben is dead. It's almost as if I killed him. But that's not the end. Even though it was the end in AF-15, you get the funeral, get a little bit of that regret and remorse, which kind of nails it home. One of the finest men I ever knew is dead because I was too caught up in my own ego trip, because I didn't lift a finger to help catch a criminal and an innocent man was killed. So the ego trip and the way that Peter's talking kind of ends right here. This was just a nice surprise. So this is cool. And like I said, I read this when I was younger, but this is interesting. And I wanted to show off one other thing while you're here. This was another pickup. When I bought it, I was thinking about maybe this is something I'll sell. And then I flipped through the inside. And it's really cool. Superhero fun and games. So it's like a superhero activity book. But first off, check out this opening page with that amazing Mephisto and the Hulk. I don't know, but I think these might be John Buscema pieces. I could be wrong. Mystifying mazes, find a word puzzles, spot the difference, and bonus feature. So we'll just take a look really quickly through this. This one's in really good shape, so I think I will keep this. It turned Angel's wings into a maze. Spot the differences on the Spideys. Follow that duck. Nighthawk. Play Birdword with Nighthawk. It's definitely, I think this is going to be early 80s, but it feels like a late 70s one. Yeah, 1979. Sweet. So it is late 79. Stegron's Prehistoric Puzzler. Never read anything with Stegron in it. I don't know what comic Stegron comes from. Constrictor. That's so creepy. It's like the Beetlejuice, when Beetlejuice turns into a snake. The Avengers Assemble one's great. And it's cut weird, too. You can see the perforated edges here. And you can see the unevenness of the page. I love this. The Impossible Man, Impossible Puzzle. Only one outline is the exact fit for the drawing of Impossible Man. But which one? I don't know that. Herbie the Maze. Hellcats Catnip Catastrophe. This is so brilliant. So brilliant. This one's cool. The Annihilus Negative Zone. The Texas Twister. Princess Python and a Snake Safari. The Sons of the Serpent. Pretty dope. I think she's naked under that snake. This one's great too. Professor Xavier's Exciting Exacting X-Maze. Jesus. I don't know. This might be just stock artists doing stuff. It doesn't really, some of this stuff doesn't really jump out to me as somebody's style. Let's go fishing with the Submariner. All right. If I'm going to find Tiger Shark, that's going to be the first one I find, and I'm going to find it really quick. You ready? Not cutting this out. Not cutting this out. There it is. Tigershark. Or no, it's all one line right there. Tiger Shark. I like sharks, all right? Zodiac Attack. I wonder if there will be credits. There's probably no credits on the art anywhere in here. This is cool. Doctor Strange Mystic Maze. Learn to draw Marvel superheroes. Here's the cover. So you get to figure out which two Spideys are the same. Oh, here are the answers. Okay. So this is the answers section. Obviously, it's just a rehashing of what we already looked at. So there's a sequel to this, a number 2, which I might have to track down because why not? Look at that cover. So anyway, that was a little fun and games, along with an amazing fantasy retelling. Not a reprint, but a retelling. All right, well, that was a lot of fun. And like I said, I'm going to get better at this. Maybe do a higher camera so that you can see everything. But then again, this is a bigger comic, and the AF-15 reprint was a regular size. So I was just kind of doing it on the fly. And my verbiage, I'm not a comic creator. I'm not an artist. So, forgive me if there are some words that I should have used that I didn't. And I forgot to, what a close-up was and a mid-shot and a long shot. Anyway, thank you for watching. And I'll see you next week on... This is the West Coast Avengers. Whatever. You get it. Spider-Man. Oh, wait. What's that? Cut that, Dave.
Something dark side. Something complete.
I am smelling like a rose that somebody gave me on my birthday deathbed.
All right. Good morning. Welcome back to the West Coast Davengers.
I'm a bald little baby.
My name's Dave. Hi, welcome back to the West Coast Avengers. Welcome back to the West Coast Avengers. I'm your host, Dave. It's named after me. You get it?
You dig?
Can you dig it, sucker? All right, wake up, Dave. Here we go. Welcome back. I know you missed me last week. I was a little bit of a firecracker, and today I'm more like Dynamite. I'm filming this right before I go to New York Comic-Con. But when you see this, I'll be back from New York Comic-Con. Time, what is it? It's a flat circle. Time's a flat circle.